All right, well, let's get started then, since it is almost 5 after 4 Eastern Standard Time, and says that some people said that this is a good time as any to do this. So Louie and I are going to tag team this Cause Marketing Forum and the Forever Living in Place Certified Home Model. So the agenda is that we're doing the introductions. We're going to do a quick poll, and we're going to show a video of military makeover with our own designer friend, Jennifer Bertrand, who is also an AKBD. And we're going to discuss what cause marketing is and how you can implement it in your career. And then we're going to dive into the Living in Place Foundation that I'm sure some of you have heard a little bit about. Maybe we can answer some more questions today, as well as diving deeper into the Forever Living in Place certified homes. So I'm sure you've all seen your forum rules when you registered. Anyway, we're going to be kind and courteous. Let's kick it off with this video on cause marketing.
Military makeover coming up right now. You are the family that's getting the military makeover. Give them a hand up and support them in their time of grief.
There's been several times where I was willing to take my own life.
Welcome back to Military Makeover, the Clark Family Big Reveal. We're about to show you one of our biggest reveals today. It's time for the big reveal for our 30th season of Military Makeover.
Stay tuned, progress all over the place. I love the sound of an empty house. It means I can get in and do what I got to do. And as always, it's demo time.
Okay, so let's talk kitchen here. Make this not look so cluttered. How you want your house to feel?
Well, the top of my list for the house would be the long-term, permanent survivability of the house.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? This is amazing. Knowing that she knew this before you got married, how did it make you feel?
That was really hard because I had such a hard time with that, having gone through what I went through, and him knowing, and still
Stuck in there.
this is what he wanted.
I mean, I get you.
Guys, moments away from bringing the family back home.
Wait till you go inside. You're gonna be amazed.
Check out your new home. These military veterans put everything on the line. When I'm here doing these, if I don't push the envelope, then I'm not doing them service.
Ultimately, I know the one thing I can offer is giving these veterans a home that will help them have a new beginning.
Being able to participate in this Military Makeover show gives me an opportunity to not just talk about doing things, but to actually do things and give something back.
Pretty powerful, huh? Louis, what do you think of that?
Well, I've known about Montel Williams for decades. He actually was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy and retired after 22 years, and then went on to ironically have his own talk show. Some of you may remember that talk show that he used to have. And then he's had some medical challenges of his own later in life. I think he's what do we say? He's 69 years old right now.
Yes.
And so this is his passion now, is to help veterans that haven't been as fortunate as he has, or have challenges as a result of their service. And there was that, I think, a little thing there about that woman that was crying at the time. I think you know a little bit more about her than I do.
Well, each of the stories are pretty profound. Let me just get to the next one here. Oops, there we go. Nope.
So while you're getting ready there, Pam Hope is piped in on the chat. Pam, you probably can watch some of these shows. I don't know if maybe you'll find it on cable or satellite TV. Here in Colorado, it comes on a normal terrestrial station. But you can also go to military makeover. I don't know what the suffix is.
Payroll days rolling into payroll nights.
And you can watch many of their episodes there.
You can focus on other pressing tasks. And now you can with Bamboo HR. Bamboo HR's comprehensive reporting capabilities makes payroll fast and accurate by evaluating payroll impact and knowing at the same
That's
time
on there. Sorry about
so you
that,
can spend
guys.
less time answering payroll questions and more time empowering
Sheesh.
employees. Feel free to make
Little did we know we were going to be helping people get paid today.
I know. I don't know where the whole screen came from. Sorry about that, guys. Somewhere there's a ghost on there. Oh my gosh, sorry.
Sounds like you need to close your browser.
Yeah, I'm gonna close all
People
my.
say you can't change your career at 30. That's when you're meant to be settling down.
Sounds like YouTube took off.
You should have had it
Yeah, I
figured
think
out by then.
YouTube has
Oh
taken
my God, you're not married
over.
at 38? What the hell are you doing with your life?
It's like,
Who comes up with this stuff? I have no idea. But this stuff plagues so many people that
here we go. I found him.
Oh, good.
Sorry about that, everybody. Not without
Technology, you gotta love it.
Not without technical difficulties here today. All right, let's get back to task here. From current slide. So the answer is on YouTube, you can find everything. And Military Makeovers, all of their episodes are on militarymakeover.tv. All you have to do is go to full episodes here and click on that. And then another cool thing that they have on their site, like Louis was just saying, that you find out more about the stories that they teased in the preview by going to all stories, and then you learn about the different families. So it's really, this is a great example of cause marketing because they have been around for 30 seasons. And it initially, I feel like this was meant to be filler TV. And it was on the feel-good part of morning programs locally and regionally most of the time. And now I think it's really taken off with design stars such as our own Jennifer Bertrand, and as Louis had mentioned, Montel's story. And it kind of all circles around together. So, you know, as you can see here in the center, it has the different categories, which we all sort of fall into different categories. Claire and I were chatting earlier, and so were Faith, about, you know, how do we do more living in place? And that's really where we're at with where we want to talk about this today. So Louis, do you want to tell us the why?
Sure. So why we're doing what we are doing with the foundation, we'll get into that a little bit more in a little while, but the United States, there's a significant deficit of about 5 million affordable, accessible, healthy, and safe homes. And we know so many homes have challenges, whether they're steps going into the house, or the bathroom doors are too narrow, or there's no grab bars, or. But with everybody together, what we want to do is to be able to build homes that meet these affordable, accessible, healthy, and safe sort of circumstances, both the United States and internationally, and then take it that next step of making them be beautiful, functional, and also be a connecting environment.
So that brings us.
Go ahead, Danny, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That brings us to our guiding principles. We have guiding principles because our education is what you guys take out there into the field.
And then we have taken those guiding principles, which you can see on the website, the main page there. But our vision statement, we've changed it significantly because we started realizing that what we really do is educating every generation to live in place through principled professionals like you.
And then you want to tell us about the mission statement too?
Well, I don't necessarily know I want to read the whole thing, but nonetheless, the mission statement is what we convey, in essence, to people like you, to our partners and alike, about providing the most comprehensive education to empower professionals like you to create these inclusive homes and buildings which support occupants in various stages of their life. And from what we basically say, from cradle to cradle. And again, the devastating impacts of worldwide environmental events, such as what happened to me with our fire that we had in Louisville, Colorado, nearly 4 months ago now. Why has time gone fast, considering all that we've had to do thus far. But do this in a more sustainable manner. In addition, we're building accessible houses, like what I'm doing, that not only saves on financing, but also reduces the necessary future remodeling expenses. So you can go on, Danny.
Okay. This is really exciting. Louis, your baby, tell us about it.
Well, what we wanted to do was to be able to have a foundation that would have a variety of different charters. The first is to be able to offer grants to potential students, especially students in, say, pursuing a degree in occupational or physical therapy, where they can't necessarily afford it, but certainly want to have that knowledge base that they will not get as through their academic career. But we want them to do something where it's pay it forward model. And that actually has two different ways. One is to be able to pay back into the foundation for the grant that they received. But the other one that I prefer to see happen is for these people to do pro bono work for a deserving individual, whether it's a school teacher, a first responder, or somebody else who's had a real challenge in their life, to be able to then make a difference in their life, which to me is basically what humanity is all about. Then the other aspect of this is the construction of forever living in place certified home models. Okay, these are going to be model homes that we end up working with builders to have across the country. And one of the biggest problems that people have is the home modifications is not knowing what sort of products or designs will work for them. For example, I always come to the situation of a bidet seat. You know, here in the United States, bidets are, for the most part, pretty foreign. Of the 3,800 some odd homes that I childproofed before getting into doing this, I think I only saw bidet seats, or bidets rather, standalone bidets, in maybe like 4 homes. But even those aren't the right thing to have. The best thing is to have the bidet seats where you're not having to transfer from one device to another. The other thing is that there is this perception that these costs of these features exceeds the expected use or value, which is really far from true. On top of this, most people don't want to live in a 55 plus sort of community. They desire to be part of a thriving multi-generation neighborhood. Matter of speaking, I went to a friend's house last week. We haven't seen them since, oh gosh, a long time ago. And they live in a 55 plus community. They have counted 6 steps going up to their house. Okay. When they have that circumstance that may befall them, now it's going to be a real challenge for them to get into that house and around. And you know, the bathrooms, same thing. They're too small for what they really need. So these forever living in place models, the intention here is to be able to create these designs that would be available to developers and builders to create these homes in their market, to allow people to experience what life really can be like, from better working environment, learning, play, and having a much easier lifestyle. Again, to be able to live in place, as I like to put it, gracefully.
Very nicely put. So one of the great things that we were talking about during the KBIZ and IBIZ show is that deserving individuals will receive a free 3-day experience of what life would be like in this super accessible environment. And they will be located in all the major metropolitan areas and anywhere where there is interest, and built according to the Living in Place Institute standards, the HACCP standards. And this is going to take off, sorry, Louis, like wildfire.
It's okay. That's totally fine.
I know, have to have an off-color joke every once in a while to remedy the situation. And the partnerships that we're growing really it is infectious how it's going to spread. And there's going to be a lot of social media that's involved with it. So just quickly, now that we've introduced the foundation, who's been actively participating in cause marketing, either by raising your hand or by typing into the chat? Does anybody want to unmute themselves and give an example of what causes are near and dear to their heart that they've sort of had as a cornerstone of their business? For me, it's always been Willow Domestic Violence Center, and I was able to become their volunteer of the year by entering a contest that was actually a cause marketing movement called Design for a Difference. And it's just been so much a part of my identity in my business for the last 8 years that I don't even really think about it anymore. I just keep Willow Domestic Violence always at the forefront in my conversations, and always make sure that I show up and give the donations. And when they ask something of me, I make sure that I spread the word and go above and beyond. Does anybody else do anything like that?
Go ahead, Faith.
Hi. Well, it got interrupted by COVID, but I had started to get involved in the non-for-profit that's all about designing or filling homes with people who are primarily female and children, called Humble Design. If I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. COVID was difficult for Humble Design because, well, you couldn't stay there. But look it up. They're in 6 or 7 major cities. There was one in Seattle. It was struggling. I've since moved to San Diego. There's one here. And I just think opportunities like that are such a place for us to represent what's important to ourselves and, of course, to the community, and help them better understand. So I'll get involved again. It's here, as I said, in San Diego. It was very meaningful. So take a look at Humble Design.
Awesome. And we will be giving them a shout out on a later slide as well. So
oh, good.
I've actually had conversations with Traeger and Essie, and what they do is remarkable. And there's another organization from an ASID group called Dwell with Dignity as well.
Oh, yeah.
And this is in the conversations that Louie and I had with the other stakeholders of the foundation, of, you know, how to get involvement multi-tier with different nonprofits. So as you're aware, we have our brands and we're getting the name out. And we have the Institute's brands and the education that we have. And here's some of the crew that's involved with furthering the mission of the foundation. As you said, Faith, during COVID, things sort of slowed down and took off at the same time. And now with Louie's situation, we're really having to fast track the foundation and spread that you know, initiative to other people, because everything that Louie now has to do in rebuilding his home, so many of his neighbors have to do. Louie, do you want to talk about some of the presentations that you've given in the community and how people have responded to that?
Louisville, well, there's 3 communities. There's the town of Superior, unincorporated Boulder County, and the city of Louisville. It's kind of like the song Hotel California. You can check in anytime you want, but you never want to leave. And that's kind of the way it is in Louisville, in that when people move in there, they want to live out their entire life there. And so there's real low turnover of homes there. And so most of the people who are rebuilding are going to be in need eventually of having features in their home that will make it more hospitable and comfortable for them as they gracefully age. And so I've done presentations in my communities to basically tell people that this is now your opportunity to make your home your oyster, if you will. to be able to design the things in from the get-go, instead of, oh my gosh, I need to do that curbless shower. I forgot to do that back when. So I've been doing presentations about more or less many of the things that we talk about in our training and more, for what they should be doing to prepare their home for the eventuality that they may want to live there for a long, long time.
Another thing, and maybe you two had a part in this, I happened to catch up with some email after my move, and it was on the annual plan that ASID does. And they were summarizing trends, and they used a term I hadn't heard, but it's wellness real estate. I love that, because oftentimes the first interaction people have around home is a realtor. So I found that article on the what's called Ad Pro, which is part of AD, Architectural Digest, but it obviously would be in if you're a member of ASID. I'm totally happy to go on, find the link and share it, because I love that term for marketing purposes of wellness real estate. So
that really sums it up, doesn't it? Especially what Louis is going through with getting the property scraped. The FEMA has to be involved, and all the different layers and levels there. I feel like with cause marketing, there's so many things that we bring to the table as professionals to bring in the right professionals is where we become indispensable. And that's really where it starts to snowball with the cause marketing projects that we've been involved with, is that one person knows somebody who knows somebody, and then it's all about spreading the word. So those resources that you're talking about, Faith, please do share them on our LinkedIn, our Instagram, our Facebook. Like that are very welcome. Louis, you want to talk about how this project of yours is going to be marketed and highlighted in different publications?
Oh my, there's so many different ways. First off, there is a time-lapse camera that takes a photo every 3 minutes from the top of our property looking down. We put that up just before they started doing the debris removal last week, and I believe that they should be finished with that debris removal now. And so I'll turn it off because there's not going to be much going on for a while. The other thing that's going on is I've submitted an article to Kitchen Bath Business Magazine, which I'm on the editorial advisory board, as is Miss Ebony Stevenson, who's here today. And they're going to more or less chronicle the redevelopment of our home from bottom up. And what the first article I gave them was, if you will, some advice as to what you should do after having gone through some of this right now, as to what you should do in case your home or condo or whatever might have some sort of catastrophe, from a standpoint of insurance, a standpoint of making certain that key documents that you think are in a fireproof safe, but really isn't a fireproof safe. Our safe blew open. I know other people's safes who the contents inside them incinerated because the fire was so hot for so long. To many other things, like I implore everybody to take a videotape, a narrated video of your home as you're walking through it, opening up all cabinet doors, pull open drawers, open closets, and narrate it as you go through to be able to say, here's this, here's that, from the standpoint of perhaps helping you create an itemized list if you have to. In my case, it was so detailed that I did not have to do an itemized list. And I know people who spent many, many, many hours on that list. How many towels do we think we had? How big were they? When did we buy them? Things of that sort that can be mind-numbing, but also very painful as to, I've really lost everything. In my case, it was so thorough that they just basically said, don't do the itemized listing of your possessions. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this how I did it. I did it as the fire was coming up to our street. Basically I finished as it was just down the street from where we live. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend doing it with a more leisurely fashion, and then save that video up onto the cloud, or put it in a safe deposit box, or give to a friend that definitely doesn't live near you, because you don't want to try to resurrect what that's all about. And list goes on and on, especially the standpoint that I saw a study of the number of houses that are underinsured as a result of the fire. And it's like well over 90% of the homes were underinsured. And some of those people won't be able to rebuild. They don't have the money to be able to rebuild because construction costs have gone up so much. I'm kind of singing to the choir here, that what they thought would be like $200 a square foot would be sufficient. Nah, not now. It's at $320 a square foot, and that's kind of bargain bones sort of construction.
Yeah. So why wouldn't we want to help people out that are underinsured, that have no other recourse, right?
Exactly.
So anybody who hasn't subscribed to kbbonline.com, you can have a print or digital version or both. So we can follow Louis's progress with his house rebuilding. And we're just going to briefly go through what makes a Forever Living in Place certified home. 100% of the HACCP standards is the platinum. And Louis and I kind of have a philosophy. We want you to double down and go all in. We would love to see that every Forever Living in Place certified home is at the platinum level, if not the platinum encrusted with multi-carat diamonds, by doing something extra special for the inhabitants. But Louis, maybe you want to go over, and if somebody doesn't quite achieve the platinum level, such as the Erickson family, what would be gold and silver and bronze level?
Well, some people, the development of their home, it's too late. You can't do like the threshold list entryways. And so what you want to do there is to minimize what those thresholds are, because every time you go over them in a wheelchair or somebody who's got shuffling steps, it's just not either easy, or it's your risk of tripping over them. There's so many other ways, that it's really, platinum is the gold, I should say gold standard, is the highest standard, but there's so many good features in the gold level that, people can get in their home. For example, not many people might be able to, say, put in a heated bench in their shower, okay? And for some people, that might be a beneficial thing to have. For others, it's truly a luxury. And so again, it just depends on the circumstance. I don't know if the rebuilding of my home, I could attain the platinum level, partly because I can't change where my sewer line is. Sewer is based upon where the sewer line is in the street. And obviously it needs to have at least some grade going to it. Yes, I could go to using something like an ejector pit, if you guys are familiar with those. But those have their own challenges as to what you have to deal with those. And they're not a forever item. You have to do some maintenance with them, usually replacing the pump over time. But nonetheless, it's harder and harder to be able to, like in my case, I may not be able to do some of the things I'd really like to do in our home, but I'll explain why.
Right. So how do you build the cause marketing team? Like I had mentioned in my example with Design for a Difference, I kind of picked up on a charity that I was already working with, and then it was one of my vendors that was the sponsor, and then they hosted events, and then somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. And my favorite part of the business alliance was that a paint manufacturer actually donated some paint. And when I went to go pick up the paint, there was a contractor who then not only donated more paint, but donated 5 days and 5 rooms worth of labor. So that just kind of came falling out of the sky. And there's that adage that if you don't ask, you don't get. And sometimes it's all about being in the right place at the right time and asking the right questions, and you'll be blessed through the business partners that you already have established relationships with and business partners that you will build relationships with. So some of the manufacturers that are already champions of living in place products and ideas are listed here as our manufacturer connections. And then there are other nonprofits that can partner together, as with Humble Design. You know, Humble Design's mission is that they go out and they outfit somebody's home as a rental home to give them the stability that they need to have almost zero attrition rate from homelessness. It's less than 2%, which is absolutely unheard of. So we're looking to have nonprofit partners be the community resources, which will create replicable models to provide affordable and accessible housing, speaking to the well real estate, because something that is well is going to save on people's medical costs, and that we'll be working within the existing funding and zoning frameworks that are out there. So Louis, do you want to speak on After the Fire? That's the one that you're working with, right?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. Robert August asked me, and I accepted to be co-head of the education aspect for After the Marshall Fire. What people should be doing to help, again, educating on a variety of different fronts. And so I'm privileged to be able to be requested to be part of that. It's interesting. I'm paired up with a lawyer, a real estate construction lawyer, and so it'll be very interesting to do it together with him. But again, it's again helping. To me, it's helping the community, because I certainly want to see many of my neighbors in my neighborhood. There were, of the 58 homes that were there, 7 are still standing, but all the remaining 51 homes eventually are going to be rebuilt. So Danny, I'm gonna let you take the other ones, because I'm not quite as familiar as you are with the other ones, except for Habitat for Humanity.
Of course. And Dwell with Dignity, as aforementioned before, is like a version of Humble Design. Humble Design was started by somebody who was a graphic designer, and they actually have a television show on the CW as well called Welcome Home. So I strongly suggest that you go on the CW website and check out their amazing programs, as well as Humble Design and Dwell with Dignity have very prolific YouTube channels as well. In my basic eureka moments in cause marketing this year, I learned from a realtor who has relocated over 45 times, all crisscross across the country, being married to a military man. She's had to reinvent herself, and she is all about YouTube, 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 YouTube. Make yourself indispensable, share your stories. People want to hear your stories. And this is just an indispensable way for you to share what you're doing for others and helping those, with the hand up, as was mentioned in that Montel Williams clip at the beginning there. And as Jennifer Bertrand said, it's more than just the pretty. It's all about the functionality, and it's about making a new beginning and a new start. And that's what these organizations do. Habitat for Humanity, which was founded and then championed by Jimmy Carter, it basically allows people to have a mortgage that wouldn't otherwise be financeable by putting in the 200 hours of sweat equity and paying it back to the organization. And this is just some of the ways that these nonprofits can continue to grow and thrive in all the different markets. Warwick Dunn Charities partners with Habitat for Humanity to actually make sure that there's food and clothing at each of the locations, which is another thing that Military Makeover does as well. They give people new wardrobes, they do makeovers, and they outfit the pantry with all of the new cookware that they need to really have a fresh new start. And then a lot of the places where you're going to be able to find the research is through AARP. And then locally, I'm sure that we've all seen the barbecues and the bake sales on the lawns with Rotary and Kiwanis. These are business leaders that pay it forward in their own special ways.
So there was an interesting circumstance last week. Some of you may know the CNN anchor. His name is John Berman. He was running the Boston Marathon, and he collapsed at 25 miles from heat prostration. He got heat stroke. But he was running the race for a charity called Team Beans. Okay. And that organization, what they do is they support research and treatment into pediatric brain tumors and cancer. And so people do this, these sort of things all the time in regards to they want to be part of this notable group that's helping humanity.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, he has spent 3 days in the hospital because he was in really bad shape. He didn't remember where he was, why he was there, anything of that sort. He really was way out of it.
Well, he sure went above and beyond for a colleague, because it was his colleague's daughter that passed away that is the Team Beans. And again, it just shows how colleagues and work friends can build that community to come out for a cause, to really demonstrate that there's a need for change. So trade organizations, many of us belong to several different trade organizations, and they can make the biggest change by rallying together, creating zoning changes and bylaw changes. Do you want to talk about some of the government organizations, Louis? Because you are far entrenched in that one now too. You become an overnight expert at so many different things.
Well, some of the things that, like in the city of Louisville, what they did, which is really quite notable before the fire, was to adopt the International Energy Conservation Code. And the intention is to be net zero. Basically, you're not consuming basically fuels or whatever. You're getting your power from the solar panels, from hydroelectric, or from wind power. And they put that in place about 6 weeks before the fire. Now, this can be somewhat expensive sort of circumstance, because there's a variety of ways that you go about doing this. And one way that we're looking actively at doing this is to use heat pumps, which are kind of hocus pocus sort of magic as to heating and cooling your home by using, basically, in best case, is geothermal, where you core down about 200 feet into the ground and you basically pull out heat, if you will, from that during the winter time, and then you're pulling out cool air during the summertime. It's really quite novel stuff. But those things aren't inexpensive, but they do indeed, your energy bill goes to virtually nothing. There's many other things that we're having to do, like the sprinkler systems. It's part of the International Residential Code now, that all new homes are supposed to have sprinklers. And to me, how do you put a price on somebody's life? Sometimes people say, well, these sprinklers may go off and nobody may be home, and the cost to repair is going to be really substantial. Well, there's always those cases that somebody who may be physically challenged may not be able to get out of the home all that quick, to be able to have a sprinkler to be able to help suppress that fire or minimize the occurrence of what that fire is doing to the home. To me, it makes so much more difference. Again, you can't put a price on someone's life. Trust me, there's many more things that we're having to go through now that weren't in place when our house was constructed in '92.
Indeed.
And then we're working with government agencies. You can see here the VA, HUD, HHS, agriculture. The intention here is to be able to really spread our wings very far out, along with obviously FEMA. FEMA's had a major role in regards to helping our community in a variety of different ways. Like, one of the things I wasn't aware of at the onset was FEMA was having these sites where they would pay for the real estate for these stores, if you will, where people could donate goods, and many times they were new goods. And that way I could go in there to be able to say, yes, I need a mixer, or I need some silverware or whatever, because frankly, we didn't have anything at the onset. All I had was my clothes on my back, my phone, my laptop, my wife, and my 3 dogs. And then, getting involved with, state, county, and municipal jurisdictions as to what needs to be done. And then there's lots of other grants that are out there. For example, for doing the net zero, the electric and gas company out here, they're offering rebates if you get to various levels of net zero, all the way up to $27,500 as a rebate, which is nothing to sneeze at.
That's impressive. So we will be launching a howtoliveinplace.com website to help everybody out with their cause marketing endeavors. And this is where people will be listed, and it will be consumer facing. And Pam, you wanted to know what the HACCP stands for. So Louis, take it away.
Home Accessibility and Safety Assessment Checklist.
That's a mouthful you came up with, but it is very meaningful, and it makes a big difference in people's lives. And also on the consumer facing website will be the link for the applications for 3-day stays as the inventory of accessible homes becomes available.
Wait, we didn't really talk much about these 3-day stays, Danny.
Well, why don't you talk all about what type of homes these stays might happen in?
Well, again, we're not trying to just, out of the chute, most people would think of just doing 1-story living. But like, we would love to do that on our lot, but our lot just isn't big enough considering the topographic nature of our property, where in the backyard it goes uphill. And then if we decided to go into that a little further, our dogs might not be all that happy. So we are going to be putting the master suite upstairs, but there's going to be the provision for a future elevator that will allow us to go from the basement to the 2nd floor. But nonetheless, what these stays are all about is people would apply to it, and they'd have to have good reason to be able to say, I'd like to stay at this home for 3 days for free because my wife has really bad arthritis and I have really bad macular degeneration that I can't read anything any longer. So life is real challenging. These homes would have things, again, the things that we talk about. Let's raise up the dishwasher, and instead of having the place where the dishes reside when they're out of the dishwasher, which is usually a cabinet, which is usually above your nose, have it stored in a drawer adjacent to the dishwasher. So you're not having to traverse from dishwasher to cabinet, but more so, it's so much more convenient for you to be able to reach those dishes in a drawer. Yes, the drawers would need to have organizers in it to keep the plates from sliding all around, but that's definitely something that's doable, especially from a company, say like Revashelf or Hefela. All these companies have storage options for it. But then obviously a multifamily sort of home where these could be a true living in place sort of community. I really hesitate to say a 55 plus because I don't want it to be a 55 plus. I want it to be a multi-generational sort of environment.
Excellent. So here we are with the complete packages starting now, because Louis needs to have his house done by the time his daughter's getting married, since it burned down the day after the big celebration of the engagement, and time is of the essence. So we are looking to you guys to get your feedback as to, do you think this is a great idea? Are you guys in? What would you like to see? I'm seeing here from Pam that there's some living in place features that are starting in 2022. So maybe you want to speak to that, Pam, as to what the challenges are. Feel free to unmute yourself and chime in. But we will overcome all of these challenges, because together we are stronger, and we have a great plan in place that all homes are built according to the HACCP standards. All contractors are HAT certified, and all design and construction and allied professionals, OTs and PTs, are all CLIP certified.
I'm having, can you hear me, Danny and Louie?
Yes.
Okay, it's Pam Hope calling. I'm just outside of Toronto. And hi again, Louie. It was just a couple days ago, right?
Just last week.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we
It was
finished
a
the
pleasure.
home
It was a
show.
pleasure doing some moderation with you.
Oh yeah, so much. I know it's been such a hard climb. And I had to do a presentation on the stage at the Toronto Home Show. I'm having such trouble finding images that I don't have to pay for one, or I will if they're applicable, but finding exterior pictures of homes with no stairs, or with nice ramps, or with nice porch lifts. And also having trouble finding appliances that are showing an oven door opening to the side and with a pull-out shelf, and air fryer ovens, that type of thing. I'm having a real hard time finding photos. So people will find photos for me and they put them on a website and they're not applicable. And I get really upset because they're missing the whole point.
Well,
So
we'll keep up the good fight, but we have a nice video of Louis opening the new GE side swinging oven at the KBIS show. And there were quite a few examples. And I'm sure that if you go into some landscaping companies, you might be able to find some zero.
I have been, but a lot of them you can't use the images. And I'm just wondering if our association is going to have a library that we could pull from.
One of the things, Pam, that if, as long as you give, say, to a manufacturer citation, photo courtesy of Monogram appliances, that usually will suffice, because they just want to make certain that they're getting a little bit of advertising out of it, if you will. It's the private photos that somebody may have taken, like a designer, like you. If you had a marquee project, you don't necessarily want somebody else taking possession of that, and I fully get that. But manufacturers are usually by far more lenient, because any publicity is good publicity in their eyes.
Well, can Monogram put them on the site so we can use?
Yeah, if you Google images, but we can connect offline. You can send me a list. I've been searching quite a bit, but as far as your query about a database, that's exactly where we're trying to get with this network, is that we can all have these images with watermarks, without watermarks, with the citations, so that we can really demonstrate these concepts to everyone.
Yeah, and show them the nuances, because they really don't get it. As you say, with the 55 plus communities, which to me is actually just making ghettos. How many have you driven by? There's 3 steps to the front door every time.
So there was a chat item that came up from Sherry Gold. Sherry had been a very long time valued staff member of Monogram appliances, and she says she's agreed with me. Manufacturers are fine as long as they're being attributed.
Yeah.
So, and one way you can do that is just do a Google search of Monogram appliances.
And just take a snapshot, a screenshot, and put it on a website.
Anytime you can just use a mouse with the right button on Windows, and also you can do other things on Macintosh or Macs to be able to basically copy the photo and then drop it in. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have been sort of doing that. Appliances and Revishelf, and they're very cooperative. It's the other stuff I'm having troubles with.
That's why this mission and vision is really going to get us there, that the manufacturers will be donating the products and then providing the imaging as a result of that. They'll be used in our unique and trademarked forever living in place home certified homes. So
I think that forever is a good idea, because coming off this 10-day show, nobody understands what living in place is. As much as we tried to explain it and not use the word age in place, they just didn't get it. They understand wellness, but maybe we'll start saying forever living in place home.
Yeah.
Because nobody's understanding it up here anyway.
They'll get there. So
Danny, if you
10 days?
In 10 days, right? 10 days of the Toronto Home Show. Don't envy you there.
My feet aren't either.
So Danny, hot off the presses as of last night, if you can let me share something here real quick.
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to share this screen here. This is hot off the press. This are conceptual drawings of what our home will be like in the future if it's come up. We are meeting again with the architect tomorrow to kind of fine tune this, but this is the first floor. And again, we wanted to have a relatively open layout there. And yeah, there's stairs. They're trying to do something to be able to minimize those, but the garage will definitely, if we have to have stairs, the garage will have the capacity to have a vertical platform lift there in case we need it down the road. But over here, it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to use my mouse. It's not going to be a stacked elevator. It's just going to be an open staircase area with the provision to be able to put a pneumatic elevator in sometime down the road. There's going to be, thresholdless entryways to our decks. Let me move this way. And there's going to be a covered deck area here because, yes, we do at times get mosquitoes in the summertime here. But normally the evenings in Colorado are usually quite pleasant in the the low to mid 70s, upper 60s in the summertime. So it's a great place to be able to hang out. But the trick with that covered deck is, I'm going to take you to the second floor. This is our escape route, but it's also an elevated balcony above that covered area. Escape route because, again, if it's a really bad fire, we may not be able to leave the bedroom to be able to get out, but we can get out onto this balcony here with, again, zero threshold doorway to be able to allow us to be able to yell to the firefighters, come rescue us here. Now, this is still conceptual. The bathroom to me is not big enough. There's no way that this bathroom would be appropriate for someone in a wheelchair. It's not wide enough to be able to allow them to turn around. But they do have some features in there, like having wall-mounted toilets. This is just all conceptual right now. They're not getting into the nitty-gritties of things. I'm going to go back to like the kitchen. This isn't necessarily the layout that I'd really want. They have the dishwasher right next to the sink. It needs to be a little ways from it because you're going to have paneling right next to it because it's going to be raised. My architects are going through the CLIP program right now, but they're not far enough into it in regards to kitchen design. And then just kind of for grins, this is what it will look like from above on our property. Okay. So again, this down here, these are just splotches. It looks like they're cars. I don't know how come it comes in that way, but this is kind of superimposed on what our lot used to look like before the fire. So
that's beautiful, Louis.
Just wanted to share that because we're having our next meeting still to review the conceptual stuff, but hopefully by the time they start doing real work, they will fully understand all aspects of what living in place is all about. So,
yeah.
Danny, as you know, I have to travel here in a little bit. I'm going to have to exit here shortly because our daughter, is graduating Friday from graduate school at University of Minnesota in Minneapolis with a degree in speech language pathology. So my wife is already there helping them box up. I'm flying in this evening. Commencement is on Friday. I wanted to come in more than a day early because I definitely don't want to miss this event.
And we will let you get to the airport on time for sure. So
all right.
We are building the marketing packages, creating the public relations. Please reach out to us if you are interested in spearheading this in your area. And we will definitely be bringing that reality home, as Louis just so eloquently shared his project, and we will get this show on the road. So please join us.
So a couple things before I leave. I see in the chat, Faith, send me your new address in looks to be San Diego. And then I see something here from Andrea. Would love to connect. That's where I live. Do you live in Minneapolis, Andrea? You can unmute yourself if you want to.
Yes, I do. I live just west of downtown Minneapolis. I'm out in Lake Minnetonka area. Well, so as Danny knows, this is my first meeting So I'm, very new to all this and anxious to get connected, learn more, kind of I'm just figuring all of this out, I guess. But I see a lot going on here. I had a conversation last week with a multi-housing company that was, really looking, they were talking to me about hiring me, but absolutely had no interest whatsoever in doing anything really. Well, they're doing I'll call it the low-hanging fruit, okay, as it relates to anything lead related or even related to living in place. And the reason I was given from the senior vice president was, when it comes to multi-housing, it's all about doing the most for the least amount of money. And I was really, really disheartened because here I was so excited to bring all of my energy and passion and just bring this to the table and make a difference.
All right,
And
so I'm going to give you a name of a couple that live there. It's Peter and Janine Hack. They're in Minneapolis. Their company name is Homestyle Builders.
okay.
So it's homestyle builder.com. Both of them are fabulous individuals. They do a lot of work for VA clients all around that area in northern Wisconsin. But they would be really good people for you to connect with, because they're very active in regards to doing living in place sort of projects.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Here,
And
I'm gonna put
thank you.
I'm gonna put his number, Peter's number, up in the chat so that you can, perhaps reach out to him.
Thank you. I absolutely will do it. I'm going to do it as soon as the Zoom call is over.
Louis, I had a question before you ran off.